Okay. Good evening, everybody. Can anyone hear me? Hello, hello. Okay. All right. Thanks for joining this evening. Uh, it was the was the word. It was impromptu, yeah, something like that. So, but it was important. I saw it to be something that we need. We we had thought about this for quite a while. Uh, know that this is coming to limelight now, and hopefully something we can sustain. Hopefully. All right. So let's go on very quickly. Let me share my screen. I think I need to be able to set this Google Meet such that it doesn't need me to accept people. Okay. First, please give a reaction very quickly if you had gone through the case study. So I'm gonna pull that on my screen very just now. 1 second. I'm gonna pull this on my screen. Has anyone gone through the case study at all? I can't see the reaction. Does that mean no one went through the case study? That would be interesting. Okay, I see one reaction from my boss. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? This might be a precursor as to whether this session will continue or not. So, like I said, this is not supposed to be a training. So it's supposed to be a session where we come together, we share ideas. My assumption is every single person on this call or in the Insights Hub community, you probably have had some trainings at some point in time. It might be a training that's a bit extensive, maybe a training that's not so extensive, but you have a bit of foundation, my assumption. So sessions like this, we're supposed to come together to discuss, share some ideas, and then agree on what should naturally be the flow of things for this. Um, if this would be the way we treat sessions like this, it might not be something we would continue because, again, the case study files were shared earlier in the day so that we could go through them. I don't want this to be a training, and it's not going to be a training. So, however this goes, that would influence whether this will be sustained or this will be a one-off thing. All right. Um, this is maybe some of us know. For those of us that we went through, and if you see my screen, you would have seen the company that has this case study. I would have created this as a separate document by way of saying that I just extract the content and I put it on the document. But I wanted us to know that this is a real case study. So it's not something I'm putting up or I'm just cooking up. No. So this is something that actually happened. JADA. So JADA, for people that don't know, it's a firm in Nigeria. It's a startup actually. I think they started last year. So when they started, they tried to hire analysts, people with some level of experience, because the business model is more like that of Andela. So if you know how Andela works, so Andela trains, they hire people into the academy, they train them to be software engineers, and they outsource them to UK, US firms or firms around the world. So that's Andela runs. So which is the same model that JADA is running, but looking at it from the realm of data. So JADA is a firm that maybe anyone in the data space, you could look out for their recruitment and see how and see if you could get in. It might be an interesting thing for you. So last year when they started their first hiring process, I was part of that, so I went through that. So this was the case study that I got on the second stage, and so While they stood out for me at the time was eventually when I made my submission, I was supposed to, the third stage was supposed to be that I met the VP operations to discuss with him my approach to the project, all I did, sort of a walkthrough of the project, and then had some technical interviews. So it was a good impression, more like you got something much better than what others submitted. But again, that's not the point yet. But the point I'm making is that this case study is a real case study. And if sessions like this will continue, we actually will be looking at different case studies of real job applications. So we have a few in our bank. We have some case studies for InterSwitch. We have for a couple of companies actually, so which we might want to look at from time to time, depending on people's attitude to it. But the attitude for today was not good enough. The case studies were shared, but nobody went through it, or very few people went through it. That's not good enough. All right. So if you look at my screen, so what is happening here summarily, which should be something I would have asked somebody to do, just tell us. But I think Mr. Ridwan, you said you went through this case study. Could you just please kindly unmute and give us a brief of your understanding of this case study? This session is meant to be conversational. It's not a training, and I wouldn't want to treat it as such. I'm sorry, boss. I'm putting you on the spot. If it's convenient, please let me know. Otherwise, so I can proceed.
Yeah, I'm not on my system. I'm
Okay.
joining with my mobile phone.
Okay. Okay. Anyone is able to give a brief from those that went through this? What do you understand about the case study?
Okay. The little thing I think I got from the case study is the company wants to understand how their business is performing
Okay.
in terms of referencing their set KPIs. They want to know the total sales for the year between March 2020,
Okay.
and the end of February 2021. And they want to know
Okay.
which customer category is actually purchasing well, which customer categories are doing well, which team is performing well, and what is their net sales across months. Which months do they perform better? And that would like give the board the opportunity to see what are the things they are doing right, or what are the um, maybe products that are selling fast, and what is a factor that is contributing to the particular month where they have an higher sales, and what is contributing to a lower sales output.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Ridwan. So, like you rightly said, so this is a sales business. Okay, someone is raising their hands. Yes, Adedolapo, sir. Please go on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so based on my understanding, the client they want to like develop a dashboard based on their sales performance within a certain period, which was the 1st of March 2022, 28th of excuse me, 12th of February 2021, and they want the presentation to be to their board, so it has to be concise and it has to be the executive ready kind of thing. And they also have some list of KPIs that they are looking at. So they have also some data that were provided, right, in order to get the work done. and those KPI requirements, their net sales, their customers, total customer count, and the variance by month and the product sold. So, and I think that based on the KPIs that they have shared, and also based on what they have explained in the JD, the KPIs are what will inform me as a data analyst, right, on how I should go about building the dashboard because those KPIs basically are things that I think that they want to see and they are looking at, right, at saying at the end of the day. So whatever I'm doing should be tailored basically to the KPI that they have actually shared with me. So I think that's just my own understanding about it. So how to now approach it is dependent on the KPI that was given. But honestly, I can't say this is how to approach it or how to start it. But the document that just given us the scope of what they want us to do.
Hmm.
Thank you. That was
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for your contribution. So again, thanks a lot. I like that. Yes, we have a few persons who went through the case study. That was quite interesting for me. So, like it has been said, so think about this as your regular e-commerce business or a sales outlet somewhere or a supermarket, a big supermarket or a mall, just any business that they have products that they sell to people or maybe even a manufacturing business who now they do their marketing themselves to a large extent. So the business owners, the leaders in the business, they want to be able to understand the business to a large extent. What is happening? How are we faring? Which of our customers are doing great with us? Who is giving us the most money? So some of those are things that they want to know. So which is why they want you as an analyst to now come up with a dashboard like this because essentially your work or your job as an analyst is to see how you can help the business get better by way of making them understand what is happening and how they can get to where they want to get to. All right. So now for this project, the client or the business leaders, they are very specific. What you see here, these are the list of the KPIs they want to see. For net sales, they want to be able to see what is the total amount we made in any single period. What is the variance by month? So when we go month to month, how is our sales value fluctuating in terms of maybe the naira value or the money value or in terms of percentages? How has this been fluctuating? Then we want to be able to know who our top 5 customers are by the net sales. So those are things that they want to know. And in terms of customers, they want to know the total customer count at any point in the business. So we know that because it's a business, so customers would patronize us, some would exit the business. So that will happen. So at any point in time that we're looking at data about our business, we want to be able to know how many customers are transacting with us at that particular point in time. So that is something they want to know. They also want to know the variance of the number of customers by month, just like we want to know about sales. So let's say that in January, we had 10 customers who transacted with us. In February, 15 customers. So the variance will be 5 in a way, because we now see that we have 5 more customers who transacted with us in this month against the previous month. So that's what variances mean. It's just a way of saying that we are looking at the numbers as we grow or as we go. So the numbers in the current period against the numbers in the previous period. And they want to know, interestingly, the number of lost or gained accounts over the year. So think about the number of lost or gained accounts when we think about customer, because this has been put under customers. So it gives a clue. It gives a clue. So as to, this is the number of lost or gained account is tied to customers. So it's more like saying that we want to know the number of lost customers or gained customers over the period in the business. And they have the products category to say that we have total. They want to know the total 9-liter volume. So they have they have a category of product, which is in terms of packaging. So if you read this case, you probably will have an idea. And if you look at the data set, so there's a product category that is called a 9-liter volume. So it's just more like saying that maybe we have a bottled water business and we have a category. We know that everything we do is just bottled water, but we have bucketed them into different categories to say that have we have the 1-liter bottle, we have the we have the 500 cl bottle, we have the under cl. So just something like that is what is happening in this business. And so they want to know the total 9-liter volume, and they have a definition for it here. So because 9-liter volume is represent a standard case of 75 cl by 12. So it means that when we say that in this business, when we say that we sold a 9-liter volume of product, what we practically mean is that we have a carton of 75 cl bottles, 12 of them. So a 75 cl bottle, 12 in a carton is what gives birth to 9-liter volume. So that is the definition. And in the long run, they want to also know the average cost per 75-liter volume. I think this is the end of the case. So what I just did here was to blow out the email address of the person that this was supposed to be sent to. So let's now go. The first thing is, how do you approach a case study like this? What I've just done, what I see people do is when they get case studies like this, they rush to look at the data. Yes, you want to look at the data set, but that is not the first thing. The first thing you should technically do, in my opinion, there might be different ways, there are different ways to skin a cat. So the very first thing that I think one should do when you have a case study like this is to understand the case itself. So we say it in consulting that when you're talking to somebody or you want to get on a problem, you should try to understand the problem abstractly such that you have the solution in mind. So you know what the solution would already look like. So if I was to look at this, I know that for this particular case, the way it is here, of course, it has been said that they want a Power BI report. All right, so they want a Power BI report and they want to measure KPIs in 3 sections. What I would technically do is to ask myself, based on this case, do I want to create a page of reports for each of the aspects they are looking for, or I want to segment my page into 3 for each of these to fit into it? So that's something I have in mind. So I already know that at the end of the day, I would have a Power BI report that would go through, that would have either 3 sections on a page or 3 pages in the report based on the KPIs that have been listed here. So that's number one, me having the solution in mind. So then, based on this that they have as the KPIs that they want me to measure, the next question would be that, what are the data points that would answer this? For net sales, anything sales, I know that I need 2 components. It's either they are giving me the quantity that's been sold against the unit price, which would allow me to do a computation that would give rise to what the sales amount will be, or there is a column already on the data set that is telling me this is what the sales amount is. So I know that for me to do anything on sales, I need those 2 components. It's either you're giving me the sales amount straight up, that is the amount the customer paid by each of the transaction, or you're telling me this is the price and this is the unit sold. And so if I do the computation, if I do the math, I'll get to what the customer paid. And I know also that because you already asked me to do a variance by month, one thing I would expect on the data sets that I'm going to get is that there should be something that ties all of the transactions that are happening, that ties them to date. So more like saying that I have the sales amount, I know every single transaction that happened, but those transactions must be tied to date. If they're not tied to date, there's no way I can do anything variance by month. So, and I have this section for customers. It means that the data set must have something related to customers. And I have section for volume. This data set must have something related to volume. So looking at the case study, I already have in mind the kinds of fields I need to look out for in the data set even before I open it. So because the help that this would render to me is that when I open the data set, even if the data set has 25 columns or 50 columns, I know that specifically what I need from this data set are just columns A, columns F, column J, and column AZ. That's all I need. So that's already reduces what could be overwhelming to me from the data set when I open it. So that is the way I think that we should go about studying case studies like this. First, look at the case, understand the case, understand the scenarios, understand what they want to see, be able to extract what exactly they want to see in what format, and then being able to now identify what data would you need to answer every single question that you have on that case. So when this is clear to you in your mind, you might have it documented somewhere. It depends on how you work. If this is clear to you, then the next thing you want to now do is to say that you want to go look at the data set. So let's switch. So if I look at the data set now, okay. So this is what the data set looks like. This is what the data set looks like. You see here that we have a couple of worksheets. Sorry, let me try to activate the Zoom feature. So hopefully that helps some of us. Zoom it. Run. Okay, I think it's up. Yeah. So if you look at this now, and this is something you might want to learn. Okay, so if you have a lot of worksheets on a workbook and you want to see all of the worksheets, just come here to this guy here, any of these arrows, and you do a right click there. So if you do a right click there, it shows you a list of all of the worksheets, and then you can just pick out whatever you want. So now I can see here, even without looking at the data yet, that this worksheet has, this workbook has a worksheet per month. Every single month has a worksheet. And this is typical of some organizations, even in real life. The way they handle their data, they tend to create worksheets for different periods, and so the workbook will eventually have a lot of worksheets. So it's your job as an analyst now, see how you can consolidate them, bring them together into one, and see how you can move from there. So this is what we have. The next thing I want to do is for me to be able to properly consolidate this. Then one thing is important, which is something that you should have with you. You should hold on to that, which is when you look at each worksheet of data, you should ensure that they have the same structure. What do I mean? This worksheet has 4 columns. We have team, customer accounts, volume 9 liter, and net sales. This is what we have, 4 columns. If I go to any of these other worksheets, my expectation is that they should all have those 4 columns. Team, customer account, volume 9 liter, and the headers should be written the same way. If that is satisfied, it makes your work easier. If it is not, one thing you might want to do, because this is a one-off thing, is to try to just ensure that the headers are the same on the Excel file before you load your data into Power BI. All right, question to everybody. This is how our data is. How do you think we can proceed from here? We want to build a single report that looks at all of these periods. Okay, so our case study already mentions that we are going to look at this. We are going to look at this data from, we want a report from the 1st of March to the 28th of February 2021. So it means that they want a single report that has all of the data presented in it, which will then allow us to be able to filter for data within this period and see what the numbers look like. So if that would happen, based on the data that we have here, in your opinion, how do you think we can proceed from here such that we eventually will be able to build a single Power BI report from all of this data? Anybody? Can just use the raise hand icon. No correct or wrong answer. This is a conversation. It's not an interview. Okay, Mr. Adidolapo, please go on.
All right. So I think, in my opinion, the data, all the data are monthly and they are in different sheets. So I think the first thing to do is to, since we are building a single report, is to consolidate um, all the monthly reports into a particular sheet, and that makes it like and let me say a single report, or like more like an annual report, so kind of thing. So I think it's the consolidation that we need to do first.
Okay, before you go, sir, the consolidation would happen in Excel first, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Thanks a lot for that. Anybody else? You have an idea different from what Mr. Delapat has mentioned? Anybody? Yeah, the guys. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. What do you think? We have an idea. Anyone else has an idea? Yes, Mr. Redon, please go on, sir.
Okay, I think to consolidate it, we have to first of all use this, power query stuff from Power BI, because from the case study it was stated that the Excel file should not be altered at all. So, and I think Power BI
Mhm.
give us the platform which we can actually use. I think I've forgotten, is it Power Query on that is built in the Power BI, which we can actually
Mm.
use to consolidate the data.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Thanks a lot, sir. Okay, so now we have two ideas, which is number one is we could use Excel itself, do the consolidation in Excel. Someone might want to go the approach of just copy data from each worksheet and paste them one under the other. That might work for this case. I don't think they really mind, except for the clause that Mr. Ridwan mentioned that it was already said on the case study that don't alter the Excel file. So which means don't do anything on the Excel file, leave it the way it is. Every single thing you want to do, go do it in Power BI. So fine. So for that clause, we may not want to go that approach, which is now we are left with the option of using Power BI to do all of our consolidation. First off, I've opened a blank Power BI file. And now we already know this is not a training. So we know that for whatever data ingestion we want to do, we can do that in Power Query. Naturally, naturally, what we may want to do is if I go to Excel workbook from here and I try to locate I try to locate this folder. I pick this Excel file. I do open. So if I do this, this will be the natural approach that a lot of people might want to follow. I select each of these worksheets. I bring them all in like this. What will happen is that every single worksheet here will come in as a query. Every single worksheet will go into Power Query as a separate query, and I will now have to append all of the queries together. This is a good approach, but the reason why this is not the best, this is good. You can do that for the case study. But if you were to be in a work environment and you manage your data this way, you don't want to go this approach because think about it. The last month that we have here is February 2021. So let's say now we go into the new month, March 2021. Somebody creates a new worksheet and now they enter transactions for March on that new worksheet. If you want to pull that data into Power BI, it will not automatically pull it in because now all of the you've only selected all of the worksheets that were there at the time that you built the report. You will see a new worksheet that will not be pulled in because it was never checked. The worksheet never existed, if you understand what I mean. So you may not want to go that route. What you want to do instead is this. So let's learn something. So I click on console here. I want to do this. I just go, this is a blank Power BI file. I just go directly into Power Query. And you know that if you want to go directly into Power Query, just click on Transform Data. So I click Transform Data. So now, this is now a blank Power Query file. What will I do here? So what I would do is simple. So I come here to new source, and then I just say blank query. So I want to create a blank query. So what blank query is Power Query now gives you the flexibility to write some M codes that sort of will do what you want to do. You want to define what you want to achieve. Whenever, so there are two situations you can find yourself in. If we were doing this in Excel, and you want to consolidate every single file, every single worksheet that you see here into one worksheet, you want to do the consolidation in Excel, you can use this function called, if I come in here and I do equal to excel.current workbook. So excel.current workbook is a function that looks at the current workbook, because if you were writing excel.current workbook, you'll be writing it inside an existing workbook. So it means I will be launching Power Query from this workbook. And if I do excel.current workbook, I'm asking Power Query to look at all of the worksheets that we have in this workbook, and you will see all of them, because I'm saying that the current workbook is what I want it to look at. All right. So, but now what I want to do is different. I'm not launching Power Query from Excel. So I'm launching Power Query from Power BI. So I will not be doing Excel or current workbook, because Power Query in Power BI cannot see Excel natively. So what I will do is to use the sister function, which is excel.workbook. So if I do excel.workbook, if you want to have an information, you can just click this. It says returns the current content of the Excel workbook. So I tab into this, I open the brackets. Now, this is asking for the workbook source, which is like the file path to the workbook. That is what this is asking for as the first argument. So what I will do is that, because I want this to be, so what we are doing now is, I want us to learn how to approach the case study, and also how we could implement some of these in our day-to-day work. What you want to do is, because one of the problems that you would encounter whenever you are working with data coming into Excel in a business environment is, someone might, maybe you had the Excel file hosted somewhere on SharePoint or OneDrive. Someone might just come on the team. Maybe you have a new manager and he says that, no, we need to rearrange or reorganize our folders. And it creates new folders, it moves all of the files into another folder. When anyone does that, you go into Power BI to refresh, your refresh would fail. And it's because of the fact that the locations for all of the files that you're pulling data from, the locations have changed. So as the location has changed, Power BI can no longer see them in that location again, so your refresh would fail. So what you should naturally do is that for every single source that you are connecting to, try to create a variable for them. What does variable mean? Variable is just a container that holds an information, a static information. So what will now happen is, if you have a single Excel file that is feeding 10 different queries in, imagine that we brought in every single worksheet here into Power BI, the initial way I wanted to do it. If we had done that, if the file path should change, you need to go into each of those queries and change the source, or point it to the actual source. Okay, so if you have to do it, that's a lot of work. Imagine there are 20 worksheets, there are 30, there are 50 worksheets that they are using the same file path. So what you typically want to do is to now create what is called a variable. And a variable in Power Query is what we call parameters. So a lot of people, you would have seen this guy here, parameters. So these parameters, it's something you could use to create a variable that you can now use, you can now reference in all of your queries. So I come here to manage parameters. I say manage parameters. So this will give me this, and then I say I want to create a new one. I could have just selected when I went to manage parameter, I could have just selected new parameter as well. So this one, I call it source, something like that. And now it's asking for the data type. I'll say that this will be text. So in case you are creating a date parameter, you select it as the option, and like that. Then the current value, what is the current value? That is the current file path. How do I pick that? So what I will do is I come here to my file explorer. Just 1 second. I come here to the file explorer. So this is the file explorer. Then this is the file that you want. This is the file that you want. So what you can do is to hold down your shift key. So when you hold down your shift key and you do a right click, you press shift before you right click. That will give you an additional option. And the additional option is this guy here, copy as path. If you do the normal right click without holding down the shift key, you won't see that option ideally. Okay, it's now there. So for now, it wasn't there. Maybe Windows 11 and co have it now. So now, if I do copy as path, so that will give me the file path. Okay, someone wants to join. I think I need to set this thing to not need me to admit. All right, so I go back here. I've copied the path. I just come in here, I paste it. So the only thing you need to do here, this is the actual file path, which points to the exact location it is currently in on your system. What you now need to do is to go into this file path. You see this closing double quote, you take it out, and there will be one at the opening too. You just go to the opening, you take out the one at the start too. That's all you're doing. So I click on OK. So I've created my parameter. So now what this means is that if I have 20 sources that are looking at the same file path, the source is here. And if I have to change it, I only have to come to a single place to change the source, refresh all my queries, and everything is fine. So I go back to my query that I'm building. I come in here, excel.workbook, and then I will say file.content. Then, so here, this is where you're supposed to paste the exact path. But because you have put it in a variable, so I can just say that I'm picking that from the source. Then the other arguments are actually optional. Use headers as any. I'll say that I don't have an header here. And then the delay types, can just say that no. So you can see the meaning of all of this in the documentation. So once I click on the checkbox, this is what happened. And this is the magic. So Power Query has gone into the source that we specified here. He has looked at the workbook, and this is all it's able to see. So it sees that we have names. These are all the worksheet names. It says that we have some data on all of the worksheets. It tells us the item type. It tells us the kind, whether it's a worksheet or it's a defined name. And it tells us whether it's hidden or not. So if any of the worksheet is hidden, you'll see it to be true here. So all of the things that you see that they are hidden, you see them to be true. So now, if you now want to be sure that, okay, this March 2020, what is the data that is in there? Just come into here. Don't click on the table. Just click somewhere beside it. If I do this and I come down, you see that I see the sample of what is there, which is exactly what we have on the workbook. Now, how do we proceed? So this has saved us the issue of having to work with 10 or 15 different queries. So now we are working with a single query that I want to use to consolidate all of the data. So what I would do now is this. I know that my actual data, my actual data is what is sitting from row 1 to row 12. That is the actual worksheet. And you see that there's a marker here. These are the worksheet. Every other thing, they are defined names. So I know that the things that I need, they are the things that are on the worksheet. So what I would do now is that I can now come here to say that I want to filter this entire table to only show me what is the worksheet. Cases like this, you just need to find an identifier that will speak to the exact thing that you need. You could have come here to name, click on this drop down, and you manually select each of the names that you need. But the reason why this is not a good approach is that if you eventually have new worksheet for March 2021, you wouldn't have had it selected, so it will not come into your data. So, but if I come here and I say that I want to filter by the kind, I'm only selecting the sheet, I'm taking out defined name. So now everything that's a worksheet would come in, which means in the coming months, if you eventually have March 2021, April 2021, all of those will automatically come in as soon as I refresh, because I've asked it to always pull in anything that is a worksheet in that workbook. Even when you have some rough worksheet that don't have actual data, they will still come in. So you have to be careful as to how you manage your data. So now that we have this, what I need to do is very simple. We are almost there. So I can just do something like this. If I look at the actual data, I don't want us to exceed 90 minutes for this class. If I look at the actual data, you see that the actual data here doesn't have something that I mentioned that we need. Looking at the case study. Can somebody pick that out for me? When I analyzed the case study earlier, I mentioned that we need different components, the sales, the customer, and stuff. There was something else I mentioned that we don't have on this data. Anybody? Mr. Dolapo, I didn't hear that. I saw your mic was open for some seconds.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. I think I saw it there, so that's why
Okay.
I muted that.
Okay. Let's look at it closely. It's not far at all. Let me help us so we don't delay. Is the date. So we want to measure our transactions against date. We want to check our customers against date, but our data does not have date. So what do we do? The only option we have is to use this column that we see here. We can use this column that we see here as our date column, and then we pick our data from the actual data column. So what I would do in that instance, that tells me that I need these first two columns. I don't need any other thing here. So I can highlight the columns that I need. There are a couple of options to take out whatever you want. I'll come here to choose columns. If you go to choose columns, you see there will be a dialog box, and then you can select what you want. You can also select the columns like this, do a right click and say remove other columns. So there are a couple of options. So, all right. So now that we have this, then the next thing is you look at this. This is where all our data sits in these cells. All our data are there. Then what we need to do is if you look at the top right here, rather than have the regular drop down, we have these arrows pointing left and right. Whenever you are working on any column in Power Query, and you notice that the column has this kind of arrows, it means that the column has contents that can be expanded. It has contents that can be expanded. But before we do that, I want us to pay attention to something. So if you look at each of this data now, you see that Power Query is not able to recognize the header. So it's saying column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. There is a way we can switch that. But let's just learn something from here. Maybe not that way, but something else. All of them, it doesn't recognize this first row as the header row. That's why it labels them column 1, column 2. Before we expand, we can actually do that. We can manage that up front. So what I will do is I'll come to add column, and then I will create a custom column here. So custom columns, you create them whenever you need to have an additional column that will need you to write some codes. So mQuery, it's not that difficult. You may need to know a bit of it at some points, but again, that's why we have documentation online. Most of the things that I do too, I go online. I check documentation, but again, you need to have an idea of what you want to achieve and just go fetch how to go about that. So I can say that this will be actual table. That's a column name. And then I know that the function that I need to use is table.promote headers. Promote headers. That's the function I need to use. And Power Query, the M language is case sensitive. So if you're supposed to use capital A and you're using the small letter, Power Query will throw an error. So this capital P, if you were to be small letter P, if I do something like this is going to throw me an error eventually. So you need to know exactly what the cases look like. So table.promote header is only asking for what is the table within which you want to use the first row as the header row. It is in my data. So I select data, I close the bracket. So if you have an issue, if you have an error with your calculation, this will already tell you, you see that the check mark here will be something here. You see, it says token, closing bracket expected. So once I pull that, it becomes a green, and then I click on OK. So let me admit this person. This is so annoying. All right, so now, when we look at this, if I click on the tables in here now, you see that now the tables now have the correct headers. We don't have the column 1, column 2 again. So all of the tables now have the first row as the headers. So then I'll use I've done this guy. I don't need him again. So I'll remove. So this is the actual thing that I need now, and I can expand into this. So I just click on this arrow to expand. So it sees all of the columns that we have there. This box here, use original column name as prefix. You don't need it most times. What this will mean is that when each of these columns come out, they will have a prefix of actual table. So you see actual table dot team, actual table dot customer account. You don't need that. So I'll check this box and then I'll click on OK. So now this is all of our data. All of our data have been perfectly what's the English? They have been consolidated. So they have all been put together. And if you look at the number of rows, you see that we have quite a number of rows here. So this is a cleaner way to bring together all of the data on different worksheets in our Excel file that are sort of not sitting that are not in the same worksheet. They are in different worksheets in the same Excel workbook. This is a cleaner way, rather than going the route of importing each worksheet first. But if you go the route of importing each worksheet first, when you have imported all of the worksheets, what you then do is to go here to Home tab. On to the far right, you see Append Queries, and you can append queries. So it means that you're going to now put all of the queries together on one on top of the other, but that will need you to do a number of steps. But here, we've been able to do everything in a single step. So I have this. This column for name is meant to be like the date column. So what I can do is I can leave it this way. I can leave it this way, but maybe not. So let's see if I try to convert this to date. So this goes into date exactly. So which is everything we see here, they're all dates. And mind you, when you work with dates in Power BI, in Excel and stuff, you try to convert anything to date. The format that you see is the exact format of how dates are written in your system. So on your system, so if you have it as day, month, year, when you convert something to date, that's the format that you will take. If you have it as month, day, year, that's the format it will take. And that's the reason why many people have issues when, for example, you work with somebody in the US, they send you a data set. The data set is coming as month, day, year, but your own system recognizes day, month, year. You have an issue because when you try to convert the data that is coming from that data set to date, you will have some errors because Power Query will not be able to recognize some, as you can't have months that will exceed 13, that will exceed 12 and stuff. So that's something you need to bear in mind. There's a way around it, but that's not a conversation for today. So this is where we are. We already have, here's my cursor. Okay, so we already have the actual data that we need. So I just need to check the different data types. So for all of the data types, so you can actually select all your column at once like this, and you come here to the transform tab and use this option, detect data type. So this option looks at your data, looks at each column and tries to figure out what the data type is. A lot of the time is correct. So if I do that, you see now is it picks this, it says this is supposed to be text, this is text, this should be decimal, this should be decimal. So a lot of the time is correct. So if you have lots of columns, you can always explore that option, and maybe a few columns that will not be correct, you can get back to do those yourself. So now I will just rename this query. So I can call this maybe my sales data. But the other thing I would need from here is because we want to perform analysis by customers, I may want to now create a customer's dimension. Maybe the team, I might not even need it because it looks like it's just only one thing that we have there. So it's not necessary to bring that in. So I'll just go back to, okay. So, okay, I've not removed that column yet. So I can just come here and say remove. So I have just the month, the customer, the volume, and the sales. So I'll duplicate this column. If I duplicate this guy, and then here, what I just need is the customer column. That's the only thing I needed. That's the only dimension that I need from here. So I can come here, choose columns. I take this out, select customers. I do OK. And then I want to remove duplicates because I know that a lot of our customers would have transacted with us a couple of times. So I say remove duplicates, and that leaves us with 612 rows. So I'll just rename this to be the customers. I like to have the suffix D so that at a glance, I can always see what is a dimension or what is a fact. So this is all we need to do here. Click on close and apply. So our data is ready. We now need to begin our analysis. If you have any question, please feel free to raise your hand. I'll ask you to hop in, and so we don't have to wait till the end to ask questions. All right. So our data is in. Yes, Destiny, please go on.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. Hi everyone. Good evening. So, quick one. I lost you at some point where you were talking about the dates, like dealing with dates from different time zones. So,
Yeah.
could you please talk about that again? Then, secondly, I was trying to jot down the mQuery codes because I'm not really familiar with mQuery codes. So, I was
Okay.
trying to like jot down those codes. So, I don't know if it's possible you like make that available, those informations available
Don't worry. I will
for
share
us
this
after the
Power BI
meeting.
file.
Yes. Okay. All right.
You'll get it. You
Awesome.
get it.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
So
Thank you so
going to your
much.
question on time zone, so essentially is you need to bear in mind the time zone with which the data is coming with. So if your data is coming from a different time zone from what you have, and by time zone we are not talking about the actual times there. Maybe they are 6 hours ahead. No, that's not it. So it's just the date format. So if in your country what you recognize is day, month, year, that's how we write your date. So today's date is 3rd of August. So you write it as 3/8/2025, but the data that's coming is coming as 8/3/2025. You'll have an issue eventually. So what you will need to do, because at some point the three that they have in the middle, which is the day, your own system will recognize it as the month. That's as March. So which will not be correct. Number two is at a point that three will become 13. So there is no 13th month on your own system. So that will return an error. So those are things you need to bear in mind, but it's a different conversation. All right. So now we have our customers dimension. We have the sales table. The other table we'll need is essentially the dates table, just so to make our analysis a bit more dynamic. So I'm just going to come here. I'll create a dates table very quickly. So I come here to new table. So I call this, excuse me. So I call this dates or calendar, whatever you want to call it. Then there are a number of ways people use to create this table. So you can create them a column at a time. You can create them all in the same calculation. So let's explore that. So you can use the add column. So the add columns function is a function you can use to add new columns to an existing table. But for now, we don't have an existing table. So we use the calendar auto function to create the existing table, if you understand what I mean. So because you know that the calendar auto function will return, yes, it's been recorded, Siders, don't worry. You'll catch up with that. So this is a test run. So eventually I will have an understanding whether this session needs to be an hour session or a 2 hour session, but this is a pilot. So let's see how it runs. The recording is being recorded, so the recording will be available. So calendar auto returns a table with a column of dates. So which means it's going to give us a table. But if you remember on our case study, we already have the list of dates we are looking at. So 1st of March to the 28th of February 2021. That's how we want. So you don't necessarily, you can, in this case, add code your date to start from the 1st of March or maybe the 1st of January 2020 till 28th of February or maybe to the end of that year, or you just hard code it for this period. So what I would do here is that I can do something like this. So I can say that within this, I want to write a variable for the start dates. And then I say that the start date will be, I'm creating a date for 2020. The month is March. So month is 3 and then day is 1. Yeah. So then I'm creating another variable for end date. And the date will be, so I like to use the date function to create a day because sometimes I don't get the format that the date is supposed to be in. So that gives me some trouble. So I just use this. So that will be February 2nd, 2028. So I have the start date and the end date. Then I can return. And I see now that I'm using the calendar function. You should use the start date variable that I created, and it should use the end date variable that I created. And when so this becomes the first column. So I need to, yeah. So this is the first column. Then the next column will be my year column. And now I want to use the year function on the date column that will be created. So which is this. So I select this. This is this. Then maybe I want to create a month. Let me do month number. So I do the month function, and then I'm creating this. Then I do the actual month name. So which is I can save, format, the date to be 3-lettered month. Then I can create month, year, year, and then I say still format the date and return this as 3-lettered month to figured year. Okay, so let's assume that this is all I need. I close the bracket for add columns, I hit enter, and this gives me all I need at once. So I have the date column, I have the year, and if you filter on the year, you see that we'll have just 2 years, 2020, 21, 21, because we've hard coded our date. So if you need to extend this, you can just come to this guide to do that. So we have this already. So for my date, I can change the format to just date. We don't have a time portion in our analysis. I like to keep the format very simple, short date. So I do this, then yeah, so this is what we have. So what I may want to do, yes, Destiny.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. I just observed something, but I want to understand the logic behind everything more than just like watching the videos and having the recording and like okay this. So I see you mentioned something about if we want, because I see that for the purpose of the tax that was given, we are just working on what we have been given to do.
Yeah,
That's why we are not making use of all the dates. We are just making use of the dates that they need.
yeah,
So is it possible? Is it I think you mentioned something like that, but I just want to be sure. Is it possible that let's just say I'm just giving a scenario now, like we've been asked to work on this same data again. And
okay,
this time around, our boss, our BI manager is saying, okay, this time I don't want you to work from March to maybe April or something like that. I
yeah,
want you to work from March to maybe November. Is it
okay,
possible for us to come to this same our date column and just increase it?
of course. So you just come here to the end date, and then you say that this is no longer February, this should be November. So if I do this is November, I check the box here, you see that for a month now, we now have November in here. So that's what you need to do. But in practical case, you might not even want to add code to the data at all. If you know that it will change, just use the calendar auto function and that solves the case. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. So I go back to my model because I know that my date has to talk to my sales. So I know, interesting. I did not change the column name for this date, the sales table. So my date is sitting in the name column. So I think, yeah. So, but we know. So I can just come here, I pick this, and then I drop it on here. So this is many to one as expected. I save. So now my date can filter the sales, the customer can filter the sales. So we are done with our model. Now let's start building our report. So if we look at our case study again, we already have the list of all of the KPIs. So we want for sales, we want to see total, dividends, and this for customers and for product. One thing I typically tell people is, so in the way DAX works, or the way Power BI works, is that Power BI is close to your pivot tables in some sense. So you can do some drag and drop, and Power BI would naturally do the aggregation for you. So that is called an implicit measure. So Power BI creates those measures for you whenever you drag a numbers column into your visual. But for the most part of it, you don't want to do that. What you should do is to create your own measures yourself. So we'll create some measures in rapid succession for sales, and then for variance, and then for let's see the top 5 customers. Hopefully we are able to complete this, but we have some 30 minutes to wrap this up. So now, first thing, I will look at I want to create a measure for total sales. So I just go here to Power BI. Again, for organization's sake, you may want to have a separate table that houses all of your measures. There are different ways people approach this. For me, what I do is to come in here to enter data. So you have an option here to enter data. If I do enter data, so this gives me this window here, and then there's nothing you want to put in there. So just rename these. I call this xcalc. So that's what I call my measures table. You can call it whatever you want to call it. So I click on load. So that creates a new table. If you see that already here, it creates a new table for me. And this table is where I will put all of my measures. So I want to create a total sales measures first. So I right click, new measure. So I call this total sales. And then I'm just doing a sum of my net sales column. So that's what I'm doing. I hit enter here. This is created. I just format this comma separated. All right, so we have the total sales measure. So now what I can now do is, because I don't need this column one, it's not doing anything. So I can come here to the ellipsis and I say delete from model. If I do delete from model, is one in, yes, delete. I'm sure of what I'm doing. So the measures table goes to the top, and this becomes, here's the first table that you typically would see. So we've created that. So let me just pull that on a card quickly. So I pull this on a card, I select the total measure. And now we see that we have 51,551.68 million. So we are getting there. So we have the total sales already. Then we want to calculate what the month-on-month variance would be. So think about it this way. Before you can calculate, so if I put this on a table, so if I do this on a table, this is what this looks like. What's going on? Come here, guy. Yeah. So if I pull this guy on a table and I go to my dates table and I select the month here, I put this guy here. So this is what you see. April, you see the breakdown of all of the numbers by the month. All right. So now, can someone spot a problem here? Just in some seconds. Anybody? Yes, Destiny.
Okay, I see that the month here is not in proper, is not orderly. So we would need to change that.
Good. So it's not in the right order. Super. So now, how do we fix that? So let me go here to my dates table quickly. So I come here to the dates table. So what we just need to do essentially is to create a new column that we can sort the month year column by. So we'll create a new column that we can sort the month year column by. So I do, I come here into a current calculation. So, and then it could be anywhere actually. So I just come here and then I do maybe, what do I call it? So I can call it sort. So I call it sort, and then what I'm doing here is I say something like still format my date, but return it as year and month, something like this. So what this would do is to create a new column that will just have something like 2020-03, 2020-04, 2020-05. But for this to be used as a sort by column, it has to be in numbers. So whenever you use the format function, what happens is the output, the result you get will come as text. That's what you get by default. So if you now want to force this to be a number, because we can only sort a column by number, ideally. So what we'll do is I'll wrap this in int. The int function is what you can use to convert whatever you have. You can convert it. It looks like number already, but it's actually text, so you can now convert it to numbers. So if I hit enter now, I have a new column here, which is now going to be a number. So if I go to my month here now, and I go to sort by, it's currently sorting by itself. I say that I should sort by sort. So now it's getting to be sorted by sort now. And so if I go back to our visual, you see that this is now sorted the right way. So March, April, and stuff. So the point I was trying to make here is this. If you now look at this, we want to be able to do a month-on-month variance. Before we can say month-on-month variance, which is saying that what did we the previous month, we are comparing it to the actual, the current month. Before we can do that, we need to know what the previous month's sales is like. So I need to create a new measure. So I do new measure from here, and then I can call this sales PY, and then I say that this should be calculate total sales, and then I want to shift the dates. I want to shift the dates by 1 month. So don't worry, this file will be shared in case you want to study the calculations. So I do this, I just format this, and if I drop this on this visual, sales PY, so what it just does is now, when I'm on April, I'm able to see the numbers for March. When I'm on May, I'm able to see the numbers for April. You see that the numbers align. So which is what we want to do. So now, looking at this, we can now do a variance to say that what is the difference between the current minus previous divided by the previous, by what percentage is there an increase when you compare with what we did in the last period. So I can come here now, I create a new measure, and then I say this is sales month-on-month percentage. So this will be equal to, I can say, divide total sales, which will be the current sales minus the previous sales, and then divide by the previous sales. So the calculation for variance is actual minus previous over previous, or you say current minus previous over previous, something like that. So when you do that, that gives you something in percentage. So I change this to percentages, and now if I add that to this visual, so this is what we have. So this tells us that our current sales in April 2020 is 1,000, about 2,000% higher than what we realized in March, which sort of makes sense visually. And in May, compared to April, we had a decline, and that's why we have a negative here. So that's what this looks like. All right, so we have that already sorted. The last part of the sales case study is top 5 customers by net sales. How do we get the top 5 customers by the net sales? So it's just more like saying that we want to have a table that shows the customers and that shows the net sales. So that is what this is like. So this is pretty simple. It's just a visual. So let's quickly build out the first section. So I have this as the sales. So we'll come back to the formatting shortly. So I can leave this for now. Then I want to have, so if I have a line chart like this that shows the month-on-month trend, so I can pick the sales month-on-month, and then I pick the actual month here. So let me just use the month here. So this is like this. So now at each point, I can see the month-on-month variance. So let me just include a data label here. So we see the data label. So what this looks like, I can just increase. Let me see. Can I reduce the size, the font size? Can make this 8. So this is like this. All right. So this is what we have here. Then I need a table to now visualize what each of our customers did. So I need our customers. So the customers will be here. Then the total sales will be here. So then we can format the table. All right. So now, one important thing when you are approaching case studies like this is, if we leave it this way, remember our case study says they want to see total sales, they want to see the variance by month, they want to see the top 5 customers by net sales. That is what they want to see. If you leave it this way, you have answered all of the question here. But think about it. You are answering a job case study. You are competing with a lot of other guys. There are a lot of people that you're competing with. So if you have a lot of people that you're competing with, you need to try as much as possible to do a bit extra. You need to do a bit more, such that you probably will stand out, and maybe in some ways there will be things that you have done that others did not do. in their own approaches. So what more can we do? So first things, we have our sales here. This is our total sales. One thing that we can do, even when we were not asked, is to try to now do a sort of a trend. We can create a trend for this total sales. So remember, they only asked for a trend for the month-on-month variance. They didn't ask for a trend for the actual sales, but we can do that. So one thing we can do is, I don't want to use a normal line chart because I don't practically want them to be able to see. I just want them to see the pattern, not necessarily the actual sales figures as they are month to month. So no. So what we can do instead is to use something like a spark line. So you're using a spark line, which just shows the pattern of sales. So I have one spark line that I use mostly. So it's called spark line by Oakvis. So this spark line is pretty interesting. So it's what I use anyways. If you go to the Visual Store, you'll see a number of spark lines there. So I select the spark line. Let me just bring it somewhere here for now. And then, so it's asking for what will be on the axis. So the axis, I want to put the month here, and then the total sales, I want it to go into the values. So this is what it gives us. So it just marks the lowest point, which was March, and then the highest point for this period, which is January. So now, if I pick this guy, let's pick this guy. The guy should come here, and then can just maybe do something like this. So it doesn't have to be that big. All right. So now, what I'm trying to do here now is I'm trying to create a 3-sectioned page. So this page will be what we use to answer all of our concerns, but I want to create that in 3 sections. So this section is now for the net sales. So what we'll do is, for this line chart as well, I want to be able to add markers. So here you see that I want it, whenever we have a positive, I want it to be green. Whenever we have a negative, like this guy, I want it to be red. But one thing you will realize is that if I come here on the format, if I go to markers, I can set markers for each series. I can't set markers dynamically. So if I do show for all categories, so I can either set a single marker for all of them, which now shows blue marker. I cannot conditionally show markers to say that for whatever value will be green, for whatever value will be red. I can't do that, which is something I think Microsoft probably would do in the future. So, but the workarounds to this is this. If I come here to the format, if I change this chart for the moment to a stacked column chart, this is a stacked column chart now. I go to format, I go now to so columns, because I want to format these columns to be either red or so. So you see that for the columns, we have a conditional formatting here. So I select the conditional formatting, and now I say that I want to create rows by the sales month percentage. So if whatever value you can see here, if whatever value is greater than 0 number, and my screen has gone off. Can everyone confirm? Is that the case? Can anyone see my screen still?
Yes, I can. I can see your screen.
Okay.
I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. It's raining here, but I'm guessing the internet is still a bit stable. So Adidolapo might be from your end. You could please check. So now I have this. I'm checking if each of the numbers that we have here, okay, it's back, good. If each of the numbers that we have here is greater than 0 and less than the maximum, so I want this to be a green. So I can just go in here, I select, maybe let's say I select the screen, and I'm creating a new rule to say that if the number is greater than the minimum, I know that the minimum would be somewhere around a very negative number, minimum number, and it's less than 0, so which means all of the negative side of things, I want this to be a red. So I'm just going to select a red like this. Okay, so I click on OK. I've clicked on OK. I see this is what I have now. So every number that is green is now, every number that is positive is now green. All numbers that are negative, they are now red. So when I have this chart now, I can go on now to change this to a line chart. So as soon as I change that to a line chart, you see that that formatting now goes on my markers. Every single marker now has a green, every positive marker has a green, every negative marker has a red. So which is something we can achieve. So that is the workaround. So you create it as a column chart or a bar chart first. You format the columns conditionally the way you want it, and then you turn this back into a line chart, and you have that. All right. So now the next thing is, how do we decide on the actual colors, or how do you design your report? This is something that a lot of people struggle with. I struggle with it also sometimes. I'm not perfect, I'm not there yet, but one major part that gets people to be a bit disturbed about design is identifying how colors can blend with one another. A website that you can use is, let me bring up the browser here. So if you come here and I do colors.co, so this guy here, colors.co. So if you go to this website, so this is the one of the websites. There are quite a number of them, but I use this a lot. So when you get on this website, what you need to do is, if you're building a report for your own organization, you can actually pick the organization's logo and come here to start the generator. So when you come here to start the generator, you come here to this guy, create palette from photo. Come here to this guy, you upload your company's logo here. Once you upload your company's logo here, it will pick each of the color component of your company's logo, and you'll see the codes somewhere down here. You can pick the X codes. But for our case, we can just explore the existing templates or palettes. So what I'll do is explore training palettes. So I click on that. So I click on this. You see that we have quite a number of combinations here. Say some very interesting combinations. Except you're a female, you might not be able to know that these combinations will blend well. So there are quite a number of them here, different combinations. So let's just pick any one of them. Which one do we pick? Which one? So maybe let me pick this. So if I pick this, I click on this, I say open palette. So this is what we have. So what I can do is, so each of these colors now, what it tells us is, if you use any of these colors together on your report, they will blend well together. But at the same time, you don't want too many colors on the report. So you may just stick to maybe 3 of these and use those all through in your report, depending on what you want to achieve. So first is, I want to have a banner at the top here. So I'm just gonna insert a shape. We are rounding up in like 10 minutes. So I'm going to insert a shape somewhere at the top like this. I have this here. And for the shape field, I can just come to this guy. Let me use this dark color. So I like to have dark colors as the background of the shape. So I use this. I come here to more colors and I paste that X code there. So this is what we have. And I switch off the border. So now I have this already. I want to include the actual titles for this report. So I'm going to insert a text box. So I say maybe this is ID Analytics case study. So this is what we have. I will leave you to format the text however you want. But for the font, I want to pick this light color. So I'll pick this light color. I'll highlight the text this way. I'll come here to the font, more colors. I'll paste it here. This is what I'm using. It's not showing here because we are on a white background. I'm just gonna do this guy. I'll pick this. I'll place it here. Then what I would do is I'll come here to the effect for this text box. I'll switch off the background. So I switched off the background. You see that this shows now. So I might just increase the font on between 14. I make it a bit bold. So this is what we have. Then what I will do is for each section of the page, I want to sort of create, like a heading, something that just shows them that this is what this section is about. So I'll insert a new shape. I'll insert a new shape like this. So a shape like this, and then I will use the same style that I used before. So I can just stick with this. Is this that I used? I think it was this. Yeah, so I do this. I want to do something else depending on how good you are with colors. So you can do this, or if you look at all of the color options that you have here, you can try to use something else. Maybe if I use this blue instead. So I come here, I use this blue instead. Maybe that is fine. So I use this here. Then I duplicate this guy. And I take this all down, all the way down like this. So but for this guy, so what I would do is I take out the borders and I give this maybe like 90% transparency. So this is something like this. So now I have the banner at the top and then I have the report body. So for this banner, I just come here to style and then I come here to text. I just say that this is net sales. So this is for net sales. So you can make it bold, however you want it. I'm sure you can play around with the formatting. So now this other shape that is down here, this shape is sitting on all of my visuals. So I may want to take it back so it goes to the background. So what I will do is I come here to format. I come here to send backwards and I say send to back. So when I send it to back, so what happens now is all of my cards, all my visuals are now at the top, and now I can have control over them. So what I will do now is I can now do something like this. I can just start to format all of these guys. So I'll do this. I go in here, the callout value, I want to make this a 20. So I leave the fonts, you can play around with that. And then I leave the labels. So I just go here to general, go to effects, I switch off the background. So everything is using the background here. Then for this guy, so I bring this guy here, somewhere like this. Then I can go in here as well. I can switch off the category label, which is what you see here as total sales, total sales. So I switch this off, and then I can go into general effects, switch off the background, like so. There are quite a number of formatting that you can do. So I can just push this guy a bit to the top, and then I can now have a text box just below to say what this is. So if I just include that quickly, go to insert, go to text box, go to just call this maybe trend, something like that. So I have this. I take out background from here and I pick this guy. I just drop it somewhere here. So this one has to go a bit smaller. Sometimes this thing doesn't click where you expect it to. So I just take it a bit up. So, and I take this guy slightly up. Okay, so yeah. So now, then for this guy here, I can reduce the size of this guy, take it like this. I come in here, I just take out, so I take out a few things that are unnecessary. So this y-axis, so I can come here to the y-axis, I take out the title, I take out the values because we already have a data label. I go to the x-axis, I take out the title, so we only need the labels there. I can come here to lines, and I say there's an option to make the line smooth. So solid line, joint type round, linear. So I can say that it should be smooth. So if I do smooth, you see now that it's now smooth and curvy. Then I can go to the color, and for the line color, I can use this dark color here. So I just come here. I think it's already here. So I use this instead. So all this blends well with the background. So I switch off the background. So don't worry, we're rounding up already. So we have this, and then for this last guy here, I just come here, I do something like this, style preset. So instead of default, I do minimal most times. So it takes out all of the noise. And because we want to show the top 5 customers, so we can do that manually here. There's a dynamic way. I will show you a code. So I come here to top N. So we'll do top 5 by the net sales. So I do top 5 by net sales, I apply. So this is limited to the top 5 guys now. So you can keep formatting this. So we have a structure. Yeah, so I just take out the background here as well. So we have a structure. So what we just do is I pick these 2 shapes, copy, paste, and this will be where the information about customers will be on. Copy, paste, copy, paste, and this one will be for the last guys. So you can just reduce the size slightly, reduce the size slightly here. So this comes here like so, and then this will come here. This one will come here, and this one instead of net sales. So this probably will be customers, and then this one will now be maybe volume, because there are 3 sections. So and this is how we're gonna continue this, and then maybe we want to add the slicers at the top here so that they're able to select if they want to filter to a date period. So I pick maybe the year, and then I come here to settings, slicer settings. I make this a tile. So like this, I want to take out the heading. I want to just reduce the size of this. So I pick this guy, I put it here, and I want to switch off the background. And for the values, the background for the values to blend with this guy, and I want the values to show. Okay, so maybe we have something like this, then so that people know that these are the slicers, we can just add a text box there. So if I duplicate this text box, Control C, Control V, I can pick it here, I put it here, and then I say something like select period. So select period. So I make this smaller, italicize, make it this color, and then you can add this. All right, so maybe I can just move this slightly closer like this. So this is how we will continue to build on this. So it's just more like now replicating whatever we have done for sales. We have a section where customers will sit on. We have a section where the volume will sit on. So this is looking at this case study. So like I mentioned, this is the first of the series. Hopefully, if we'll try to share a feedback form so we can probably gather feedback. Let's know if this is something you would like us to continue. But again, this is how I think we could have approached a case study. Like there are a few other things that we could have added that would enhance this a lot further. Especially, for example, you may want to add something that tells people when this report was last refreshed. So maybe I do that last thing before we go, because it's something that I think is valuable, especially to people that's also in the industry. So if you want to add a date of last refresh, what people do is that they write a measure that sort of looks at the maximum date on your report and they put that here. That will not help. So because the maximum, if you don't have a transaction on a particular date, for example, now let's say today is Sunday now, we don't have transaction today, and somebody has refreshed the report today. Because we had our last transaction yesterday, yesterday's date is what you will see here. So you want to always see the actual date that the report was refreshed. What you will do is you come here to transform data. We just create a static table here. Not necessarily a static table, but it's a table that will only update when we refresh our report. So I do blank query. So I come here, I do date time dot local now. So this time dot local now. So what this will do is it will give you the current date and time of your time zone. So now it says that this is 3rd of August 2025, 6:31 p.m. 32 seconds. This is my current time zone. So this is what this gives. So I just come here, I say that I should convert this to a table. So he has converted this to a table. So from this table, I want to extract. So I come here to add column. I say that I want to extract the date. I come back to this date and time. I say I want to extract the time. So now I can say this is the date, this is the time. So I just rename this guy to date time, something like that. And then I rename this query to last refresh. So this is what we have. So then that's all. So I come here, close and apply. So this takes us back. So that loads in that table. It's a row of data that is there. So what I will do now is I will just write a simple measure. I'll come here, I'll say that last refresh, don't mind my spelling, equals, so I do something like, I'll do variable of actual date. If you're not used to variables in DAX, I think it's something you may want to learn. So I can either do max or min. We only have one date in that column, so it doesn't matter. So I go to that table of dates. So I pick whatever is there. So I do variable of actual time. I say max. Min would also work because there's only a single thing on that table of the last refresh time. Then I return this. Then I say that format the actual dates. I say format the actual dates as I want to format this as the actual day. So it tells me Sunday, 3 August 2025, like this. And then I just put a text behind it here to say that report as at this, and then I concatenate this with this guy. So if I can do it this way. You can of course give the time as well. So syntax error, blah blah blah. Okay, I didn't close this guy, so I'm supposed to close this guy. So if you want to add the time, so what we can do is say that we want to add the time, report us at this, then we say hour, minutes, seconds. But this would need us to use the date and time. But because we didn't use the date and time, so this is not going to work this way. So what I can do next is now I concatenate this with a space, and then I do another format here, format the actual time, and return it as hour, minutes, seconds. Yeah. So if I enter now, this works. So now I can go on to now select a card. I put this guy here. So this tells us already reporter stats, blah, blah, blah. So I just quickly format this. Maybe I use a 10, maybe a 12. And then I take out the category label. I take out the background. So I do something like this. And just put the guy here. So I just need to make the font visible. I do it white. So now we have this. So you see now we have, this is what we have. So anybody looking at this report, you know when this report was last refreshed. So this is 6:32. The current time is 6:35. So if I refresh the entire report now, so you see that this time here would update. So it's currently 6:32. Let's see what this would update to. All right, so you see we now have 6:35. So these, whenever you refresh your report, it just keeps everyone informed whether the report is refreshed or not, so they know the report they're looking at was last refreshed at a particular time. So these are a few enhancements that you can add to your project that probably will make you stand out a bit. Like I mentioned, I'm going to share this file with people. I hope that you continue to explore further to complete the case study. And we hope that when we deploy the feedback, will be something that will continue yeah, at whatever cadence that is possible. But this is one of our ways to give back to the community, the Site Hub community. Thanks a lot, everybody. Any question in 4 minutes before we call it a wrap? Yeah, I saw some comments. I know that I was quite fast. Yes, I will try to manage the cadence later. Evolve, please go. Yes, Mr. Evolve. You're muted if you're speaking already.
All right, thank you for the insightful teaching. Right, it's quite I think it's very valuable. And so I wanted to ask, right? I've seen people write DAX for even the mundane things on Power BI, like colors and for even things that. So I just want to ask, do you recommend the writing DAX for colors or just going through the manual way? What do you recommend?
Okay, that's an interesting question, and it's something I do too, to some extent, but I see people overdo it, frankly speaking. So now my opinion is that every single thing that you use in your report in multiple places, that you know that it will be stressful for you to go and change them in all of those places, whenever there is a change, write it DAX for it. This is what I mean. So let's assume that on this report now, we have these colors that we use. Maybe we're at a point in our business where we are still rebranding. So we know that these colors might change. So eventually after rebranding, maybe we have now adopted a brown color against a red color and stuff, which means on all of your reports, you need to go and change the colors to the new brand colors. What you should do in that instance is you should create DAX measures for each of the colors that you use. So you have a measure, for example, like background equals to the X code, font equals to the X code. And when you want to format these, what you now do in that wise is instead of picking the actual color from here, you go into FX and you do it by field value, and you now pick the actual measure that you have created for that color. So the reason why this will be helpful is eventually when colors change within the business and you're supposed to now update all of what you've done, you only have one place to go and update the X code. You just go into that measure, update the X code, and every single thing will update on your report. So if it's that case where you expect or you think that you envisage that things might change, you can create measures to hold them, so you're only changing, you're updating a single place. Make sense? Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right. So, okay, I think it was a good time well spent with everybody. Thanks a lot for being a part of this. I will keep up the conversation on the group. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.